This is the waterer for the chickens. It's sort of modelled on a cattle water bowl. So the water goes in there, there's a float inside, and you fill the bowl, and as the water gets drunk and goes down, so the float opens the valve and in goes the water, lifts the float back up and stops the water going in again, and it constantly refills. And I just need to work out how to seat that, because the plug area on the bottom means that it doesn't lie flat on a stone. So I'm going to make effectively a basin holder out of this very small pallet and keep enough clearance on the right so that I can attach and detach the hose, and then once detached it can be cleaned out, moved away and put back, which is the plan. So this is the area that I'm going to put this water bowl, and it'll go in that pallet and be raised off the ground. Just now need to get the length of this hose right. I've put a standard sort of hose lock fitting on, and then it can simply plug into it and pull off, and then that's ideal for cleaning. So in terms of positioning, it's going to be around this area, and I'm going to need a little bit of an incline on it, probably a bit higher than that, and then that will go under the pallet and into the bowl. Now this hose is a fairly standard rubber hose, but it's not going to go over that tap very easily. So I've made a flask of boiling water, and I'm going to dip that in there and just heat it up so that it enables me to push it onto there nice and solidly. I get a bit of flexibility in the hose then to get it over the edge. I've probably made this hose a bit too long, but I don't think I'm going to change it until I've got the plinth in here and I know how it's going to fit. So I've marked out this pallet to accommodate the bowl just a little smaller, so that these edges just sit onto it, and I'm hoping that I'm going to hold it securely and do the job. So this is the moment of truth. Does the self-watering automatic system work, or is it flawed? Well, it's certainly filling up, and the next big question is, will it stop when it's full? After some playing around and fiddling, I turned the water butt round 180 degrees and have the hose coming in from the corner. It enables it to go into the water provider really nice and straight, puts no tension on the fitting, and then hopefully we'll have no leaks. And that's a job done. Well, we had some failure with the chicken introduction. The Silkies really didn't want to mix with the rest of the flock. So we've had to be philosophical about it. We separated them. We didn't want them to come to any harm. And the plan now is to make an additional run that comes off the back of the shed and keep the Silkies in the shed, and we'll do that inside the rabbit hutch that they are in at the moment in the back garden. So yeah, best laid plans. Should have done a bit more research, I think, but we're going to overcome the problem. I wanted to show you these. It was my birthday yesterday, and in the break-in that I had in the shed, I lost my stove, I lost my kettle, and I got some spare gas. And this is a mug that my wife bought me, Allotments for Fun and Food. So I'm looking forward to having coffee in the shed again. Good news. So with the chickens, these Blackrocks decided that they would take a dislike to the very small and fluffy Silkies, and unfortunately they started to bully them and just couldn't let that happen. So out they came, we separated them, put them back in the garden, and we've got a plan. So this is the back of the shed, and I've sort of laid out on the ground the size of a run, and my plan is to have this come off the back of the shed and to have the rabbit hutch, which the Silkies are in at the moment, inside the shed. That way they'll stay dry, warm, and have access to the outside whenever they want it. So it's a great plan. I've just got to put it into practice now. And one of the things I think I'm going to have to do is put some sort of finish on the back of the shed, which is looking the worse for wear. Make sure it's waterproof whilst I can get to it easily and preserve it. The waterer and the water butt configuration has been working pretty well, and the water butt now is half full with water, which is good. But I came over here during a bit of a downpour, and I noticed that most of the water was running off this corner and down and creating a puddle at the bottom. So it's a simple thing to fix. I just need to bring that guttering round, and I've picked up the fitting to do that, and I'll get that done today. Shouldn't take me very long at all. The wood which I purchased last week, I've decided I'm going to need that for the run base, at least some of it, and that sort of prompted me to move into the polytunnel to get the beds sorted out, or at least one of them, with the remainder of the wood. And so the retaining wall that I was going to create with it will be on hold. That's not a problem. I can pick up more of this wood when I'm ready to do that. And to be honest, it's probably just too damp to be doing that sort of work up here. During the last couple of days, this trench which I dug filled with water again, and so this ground is very damp indeed, and it won't stop me going ahead and getting some posts put in there ready for the retaining wall when I'm good to go. So there's quite a few things I can get on with, and we'll start with making that base for the run. this old water butt's going to have to move. I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to have to lose the water that's in there at the moment. But with the weather we get here, that's no great problem. It's just going to need to be over so I can get to this, build the run, and then put it back to catch rain. And I probably end up running another water feeder into this run, and I can do that from this. This definitely isn't the best time of year to do this work. You need some drying weather really, something with a bit of breeze, bright day, and then it dries out. It's much better for that sort of application of a stain. But I haven't got a choice. I'm going to be doing this run soon, so I need to get on with it. One of the advantages I do have is that the blackcurrant bushes are not in foliage yet, so none of the leaves are going to get splashed with this material. So that's a plus. Now I'm going to get on and coat the base so that that prevents it from rotting in the ground, at least for a little bit longer. Well, that needs a good dry now, so I'm going to get on with some other things. This plinth that I made to hold the water butt, I'd like to give it a coat, but in reality it's just too wet. So I think I'm going to take it into the polytunnel, let it dry out for a day or two, and then I can paint it up, give it some protection. I'm pretty indecisive about these beds in the polytunnel. I just want to make sure that I get them right. Maybe giving myself some options in the future to change them is the way to go. So it's a mess in here at the moment, and I need to get tidied up and clear so that I can see the wood for the trees. But I'm thinking that one whole bed that comes all the way along here, stops and returns, is probably the way forward. I'm worried that it doesn't give me much more extra than I've got in the 2 4-foot beds for the effort that I'm going to put in. But I know long term that I could come further across just by adding a bit of extension. I'm concerned that if I take the bed right the way up to the door, I can't get in and out very easily, and I don't really want beds that are only that wide, because that's not very efficient use of the space. So I'm thinking at the moment that coming along there and returning about here, leaving this as space that's just got a weed membrane on, I can grow tomatoes in there. And then over here I'm thinking that that bed will lift onto that one and make it a double height, and that I actually cover over with membrane, and then I can grow the tomatoes in pots here, which we normally grow. So the beds in the future would probably be about the same area in terms of soil, but I would have gained that space to be able to put pots of aubergines and tomatoes. So that's what I'm thinking. The soil from this bed can go into that bed so that the double height is then filled up, and then I would need to expose the weed membrane in just a couple of places and add sufficient soil to start me off anyway for this season. That's the thought process, and I'm just going to think on it for a while before I make my decision. Well, that's a lot clearer, and I can see what I need to do now. So a little bit more sweeping up and I'll be there, and then I think we'll cut the wood and get it to the right size, and then I'll need to treat it like I've treated the others. So this might be where I stop for today in the polytunnel. I've moved all the seeds that are well established into the cold frame. I'll show you that in a moment, but it's really handy having the cold frame when those seedlings are reasonably well established. That next step makes an awful lot of space and begins the hardening off process. So I'll put this tray away and show you the cold frame. So I built the cold frame just over a year ago now, and it's made of this tannalized wood. It's pretty chunky, and I think it's going to last a good few years. It's a big footprint, so you get a lot of seeds in it, and that's all the seeds that have established reasonably well, and they'll be just fine in there. If I get a really cold frost predicted or some cold weather, I can always put a bit of fleece over here really simply, and so that's their holding position for now. So that gives me some sort of idea of what it's going to look like, and I think the next step is to stain these, and then I can join them together and then tackle opening up the soil where I've currently got the weed membrane, and I'm going to tackle that another day. I noticed when I put the seedlings into here that one or two of these were very light. One of the tips that I can give you is, whilst a seed tray might look as though it's moist, one of the ways of finding out is to just see if it's got any weight to it, and these broad beans particularly had very little weight to them, so it's advantageous that I move them because I'm able to give them water, and on the face of it they look like they needed it. So that's been soaked in now, and I'm going to give it one more coat before I finish, and that should be job done for today on the shed. So there we go, that's me done for today, and the gutter now goes all the way around the side and catches every last drop, and that will fill the water butt in no time at all. And if anything, I'll probably get a bit of overflow from the water butt, but I can handle that. And there we are. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.